You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candace. Now let's start the show. Hey!
Hey. She's over there putting on her lip balm.
Oh my God. Okay, so lesson is put on the lip balm first and then the lotion on your hands?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get the lip balm to open.
You probably just tasted a little lotion too.
I know. Yeah. It feels like a lesson you should learn really early on.
There's nothing wrong with that though.
Yeah.
Lotion, lip balm, it's all the same thing.
No, you don't put lotion on your lips. Stop
Well,
it.
you could.
Why?
Depending. If it's all natural, you could.
If you were on a desert island and all you had was lotion and you were going to die of like chapped lips, maybe.
I'd be putting ice cubes on them, rubbing them around.
That's going to be worse. Can I tell you, like, legit real story? When I think about getting stranded somewhere, I think first about lotion. Not lotion, chapstick, and then Vicks.
Well, if
like,
you're stranded in the desert, at least you're good. Because if you find, for example, aloe, you can snap that thing open and just use aloe to moisturize your lips.
All right, so I'll tuck that away somewhere in my brain.
Make sure you do that.
Still, those are the things I think about. Like if I'm no water, no food, I'm like, how am I going to make it on this raft with no fucking chapstick? This is why I have chapstick in every pocket.
Well, I think your husband is helping you in that regard.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, he's trying to make us pack the pounds with all these little ginger snap cookies that he's sending over.
But those are the best. Horrible. The triple ginger snaps from Trader Joe's.
And I don't want to be crunching throughout the whole episode.
I know, that's why I ate 12 before we started.
He's naughty. He's really naughty. But anyway, welcome to the Breezy Moms podcast.
Hey, how are you guys?
It is Thursday and we're recording.
I know, I'm super excited.
We're live on Digital Stream Radio.
And all the things. Well, yeah, I guess we're live on one thing. And then later you can find us on all the things.
That's right.
Did you know that we are now on TuneIn?
You did show me that email, yes.
Yes, I did.
So now we're on Spotify, Tuned In, iTunes, Google Play Music. I believe you are Stitcher, and of course your home, which is
Digital Stream Radio.
Well, the Digital Stream Radio is like your home, but your literal home, Podbean. That's right. Because that's where you publish your show.
And then now Tune In, and I feel I'm not gonna lie, I feel some way because Tune In makes me think NPR. Right? And so I'm like, I'm kind of like NPR.
It feels good when you can see your stuff, right? In your cover and episodes show up on all these services. It's actually really amazing.
I know. And then the other night, you and I were on Google Hangouts with Nicole, who was on last week from Cinema Therapy, and Lincoln. I think it was Lincoln who walked by and he goes, "Who's that? Oh, is that Tom from the radio show?"
And it was fun. Yes. And speaking of the Cinema Therapy, we are currently in the works of having them join the Digital Stream family.
I know. I'm so excited.
So we'll be featuring all of their shows on our website at digitalstreamradio.com.
So we'll let you know when that comes. Yeah. It's coming soon.
Yeah, I believe so.
I love it. So
super excited.
I love that the boys, as young as they are grasping the whole podcast thing. The easiest thing for me to say was radio show, even though that actually shouldn't mean anything to them since we don't listen to the radio. They don't know what radio means, but it somehow clicks for them. Yeah. Well, so I love it.
Who are you kidding though? You know, they know who Uncle Tommy is.
That's true. True. I love it. So let's move along.
So I do have a question for you.
I'm listening.
How are your boys?
I'm good. Did I just push you? I feel like you're always pushing me. Listen,
hopefully we'll keep this to an hour because guess what?
First of all.
Guess what?
What?
Paul Manafort just got 47 months in jail.
That's not a lot.
That's almost 5 years, but we're not done sentencing him yet.
Okay.
Because he's got to be sentenced in another. He's got to be sentenced in another whole district. So.
Oh.
He had 2 different trials going
cases.
On. Yeah, one in Washington, D.C. and another one in Virginia. Figure that out. So for this one, he just got almost 5 years. So I'm excited. And I can't wait for Rachel, you know.
That's true. That's true.
She's just going to break it down.
That's our general routine. Close the show, do the notes, watch Rachel Maddow. I love it. Okay, so
tell me about the boys.
The boys are good. What is there to report? So I will say the cutest little thing that happened today with Emery, I was feeling like I was getting a headache this evening. And he was in the kitchen, and I walked into the kitchen holding my head because I was like, oh, I think I have a headache. Let me go get some medicine. And I didn't even notice that he was in there. And the way I realized he was there is because he goes, Mommy, are you okay? And I was like, are you empathetic? Am I raising a little like real person who can see when someone else is in pain and is hurting and wants to ask them if they're okay and make them feel okay? And I just had like this little weird mom moment, and also like he's a real person, right? Like he's a baby, but he's like a real person.
Well, I just want to point out that although whether he's empathetic or not, he's still a real person. You mean a good one?
Yes, no, but kids are like, they have to learn all of these things, right? You don't. Some things are natural.
Who do you think is teaching them?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything. And then they have little moments where I'm like, oh, I must have taught you that, right? It's like a little
She's like
pat on the
super mom,
back.
but she doesn't realize she just does it breezy style. That's
I know,
all.
but that's the thing, is that moms all over, all along, never think that we're doing enough, right? And you need these little moments to sort of catch you off guard and remind you that you're not an utter complete mess, failure, like all of the things that run through your mind all the time. So it is, I mean, it seems like a small thing, but it's big. It's a big deal.
So he asked you a question, and now I'm going to ask, are you okay?
I'm okay. I took some leave, and I realized that I had the headache because I allowed myself to read some like shitty stories on Facebook today, and I feel those things as if I'm there. And so I absorb them really deeply. And between that and probably not enough water today, I just was like crashing a few minutes before I got here. So anyway,
don't go crashing.
I'm drinking water now. Between water and ginger snaps and the rosé that's coming later, like I'll pull it together.
Thanks, James, for the ginger snaps. Thanks a lot.
That'll make me choke. Then Lincoln is good. Lincoln is super excited because it's March, and March is his birthday month, and that's all he can talk about.
So he's going to be 5.
He's going to be 5.
Lord have mercy, you have a little man.
I know, and I'm legit super excited that now I can tell people he's 5, because I feel like when I say he's 5, people will assume he's like 5.5, but I don't care. At least now I won't get the crazy like bug eyes. He's only 4. Yeah, he's not even 5 yet. He's just ginormous, and that's okay.
Well, ginormous in a good way. I mean, he's not like ginormous, like, he's like obese or anything. He's just very tall. And very
he's
big
very
for his
tall.
age.
He's very tall.
But, I mean, you're also a very tall woman.
It's true.
And, I mean, you're definitely taller than James.
No, I'm not taller than James.
Really?
But I present taller than him. No, I'm not taller than him.
It must be the boots.
It's the boots. Yeah.
It must be the boots.
The LL Bean boots with the heels. Yes.
No, but so, I mean, for the most part, both of you are very tall. So I would see why, he would be a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me. It does make sense to me. And every time I see him next to another kid that he's the same age as, and you can see like some kids his age, he's like a whole head taller than. But then when I meet their parents, I'm like legit that much taller. Like the correlation is there. And so it makes total sense to me.
Well, hey, listen, he's going to be a tall boy, tall man.
Or he's going to peak early.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, we'll roll with it. I think I'm more concerned because Lincoln is big and is tall, and Emery's not that tall, but Emery is an eater. Like Emery eats. Today he must have had like 4 servings, and I mean kid servings, but still for a kid, 4 servings, however big they are, is a lot of jollof from my mother-in-law, and he just kept saying more jollof, more jollof. I was like, okay, dude, stop acting like I don't feed you. Yeah, he eats. So I'm mentally preparing for when I have 2 like young preteen boys or teenage boys, and how I'm going to manage to feed them.
You're going to need to go to Costco and pick up everything in bulk.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. A friend of mine, my friend James, not my James, said in his house they had like a 3 sandwich minimum or something like that, where because him and his brother were only a year apart and they could eat like a whole pack of ham or like a whole, like the stuff his mom bought for the week, they could eat in one sitting. And she was like, so you can have 2 ham sandwiches and then you can go eat peanut butter and jelly, because we can't buy 10 pounds of ham in the week for the 2 of you to
Well,
eat.
first of all, that's a lot of processed meat. Get some vegetables.
Yes,
like, seriously.
Just an example.
Give them a lot of like broccoli, like really good, like solid fiber.
Have you met a 15-year-old boy who goes, you know what I really want right now?
My nephew.
It's some broccoli.
He loves broccoli. He's loved it since he was a baby.
That's not like smothered in bacon?
Like, no, just he'll eat he likes it steamed.
Okay.
And he'll eat it like
That's
nothing.
Great. Well,
I love broccoli too, but I gotta bathe it in
like butter and salt.
Or I usually do olive oil with salt and pepper, and I'll throw in a little bit of like fresh sautéed garlic and eat it that way.
Fancy.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't saute anything.
So we have a guest in the studio today.
Let's move along. So I'm super excited because we have my friend Bekah, who is like I've met so many awesome people in Connecticut, and she falls into this crew that I've accumulated here in Connecticut. And I met her in the woods at one of those woods classes, it's called Tinker Garden. Where
this sounds like a gay story.
Is that how gay stories start?
It sounds like gay men cruising in the woods. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, so it was at a Tinker Garden class, which is a class in the woods.
And then they call it the Tinker class. Oh my God, I can't. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway. So
I'm a drink now.
Yes, please do. Relax. We're not talking about I'm thinking about gay erotica. That sounds like one of those stories that has someone on the front cover that's on a horse and long blonde hair, Fabio lookalike or something.
Yeah.
But that's not where I was going with this. So we reel it back in.
Doing tiki tours all the way through Europe with a backpack and a tent.
Anyway, so Bekah is here tonight to talk with us. She is a mom of 2 girls. She lives nearby me. She's super adventurous, which is what I and not that kind of adventure. Stop it.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I let that conversation go a long time
Yes, but
ago.
I saw your eyes.
I was drinking.
Okay. So she's super adventurous and likes to do nature play with her girls, which I really super admire because I want to be more like that. And she's super athletic and does a lot of cool gym kind of stuff. I see her going to the gym at 4:45 in the morning, and I get involved in that. But kudos to her. And she's just all around beautiful and awesome. So I wanted to have her come on and we chit chat a little bit. So Bekah, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I'd like to mention that I had an ex that goes to the gym religiously. He looks amazing, even to this day. And got up at literally 4:15, 4:30 in the morning to hit the gym and be there before 5. And then he would come home and start banging every single pot that existed in the kitchen at, 8 o'clock in the morning while I'm still snoozing away.
Right.
Yeah.
Make my smoothies.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I find sometimes I don't want to go too far off topic, but when I'm trying to be quiet is when I'm the loudest. It's just shit gets knocked over left and right. I'm like, no, don't wake up the baby. Anyway, Bekah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for asking me. Sorry, I'm going to mess with this.
You got to get comfortable.
Yourself into.
Get yourself comfortable. So why don't we jump right in and you tell us a little bit about you and your family situation?
Okay, so you've already talked about I'm married to Dave. Yeah, he's a software engineer and also military police officer in the National Guard. And we just found out he is not deploying. His unit is leaving.
Nice.
And they were just on the news yesterday, and he is not going with them. So I am very selfishly happy that he is not going away. So he will be here. And I also have Elliot, who's 11, and Dexy, who's 5. I think she's a day older than Lincoln.
Yeah,
right?
I think that is
a
the
day
same.
younger.
Yeah, I think it's either the same or one day apart.
Yeah, she's a foot shorter.
Right. It's true.
And I am currently a stay-at-home mom. I'm looking for work now that she is
going to school.
Yeah, she's in school full day, and she's healthy finally.
That's great.
So that was a struggle for a while. So I have my master's, so if anybody's hiring.
Right. Yes.
But yeah.
It's so, I mean, it must be a challenge to make the transition, but after being home for, I mean, 5 years is a long time. Yes, I'm only halfway into that, but 5 years is a long time.
When Ellie was born, I was in grad school and worked full time, and I felt so guilty, had so much mom guilt, went over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have the complete opposite, and I am miserable, and it's not for me. I want to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And what kind of work do you do?
I just got not just 5 years ago, got my master's in criminal justice with focus in forensic psych. So I want to work with sex offender treatment.
Okay.
So I have not actually worked in the field yet because Dexy was born and she was very sick.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, Dave was the moneymaker. So, I couldn't exactly start a job and quit if she was sick.
Yeah.
So before that, I was a grad student in speech pathology. So that's all my experiences with speech pathology and brain injured veterans.
Okay.
So it's a completely new field.
Wow. And that's why you like the podcast, the murder mystery podcast.
Yes.
It's all making sense.
Yes. I love it. So if I can work in corrections, work with the disturbed people. Yes. That's what I want.
Okay. Well, somebody's got to do it.
If y'all
Somebody's
got to do it. Over here on these cookies.
Fatty over here eating the cookies.
Mm-hmm. She is nasty.
Oh my God. Okay, so that is work. So tell us a little bit about, so I mentioned that you do a lot of adventures with your girls, and I'm always so surprised because the places you go are here or are mostly here locally, and I'm like, where the hell are you? I thought you guys packed up and got on a plane somewhere and you're in Shelton or somewhere in the valley. I'm just what's happening here? So can you tell us a little bit about where that comes from with you and how you do that with your girls?
I think it started, my dad took us camping a lot and my sister hated it, my brother hated it, so it was kind of one-on-one.
I've never even done it and I hate it.
Oh no. I think that's where it started, that my love of it. And then it kind of just evolved from there where, I just said, I had so much mom guilt with Ellie because I work so much.
Mm-hmm.
So when I would get home from school or work, I had an hour before it was time for her to go to bed. And so I wanted to, I didn't even have a TV at the time because I was I just felt so guilty. Mm. And that's where it really stemmed from.
Guilty from being at work.
Yeah, or at school.
Or at school. So I had just away from her.
Yeah, that 1 hour, an hour and a half before bedtime. And so I just went over the top.
Could cram it in.
Cram it in. And now it's at a really healthy, stable balance of going outside. But at first it was very structured.
So we're going to go outside now.
We're going to go now. We're going to do this. But it was really from a place of intense mom guilt.
Okay.
And just trying to be the best mom, which is insane. And I don't recommend it.
I don't either. That's what I did when I first started, when I first was at home. I had to sign up for Tinkergarten on Thursdays, farm school. We were at Common Ground on Mondays. We went to 3 different libraries. One day we had to pack a lunch and eat lunch outside because we had something in the morning and something. And I did that for 4 or 5 months, and I was exhausted and cranky and nasty. I just we can't do this. I can't sustain this.
Yeah, and yeah.
And so how did you recognize that in yourself and make it so that you could calm down? Because I think what we don't realize is that kids feel that, and when your kid says, do we have to go? You're like, oh, I thought this was fun.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm not working now. Mm-hmm. The only thing I do volunteer work. I do a ton of volunteer work, but it's relatively on my own schedule.
Okay.
So I can do it now, and it's a lot more relaxed, and so it's very child-centered. So when we go on hikes, it's child-led. And so I've hosted a couple on the local Facebook moms group, and it's very much I'll get these new kids to come and join us, and they don't understand when I say there are no rules.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, where do we walk? And I'm like, no, stop. Go run across the creek. Go. And they're like, well, it's cold. And I'm like, so what? You have health insurance. I don't.
Cage-free? Is it range-free parenting? Is that what it is?
Free range.
Cage-free, free range, tomato, net range.
All kids should be cage-free.
Yeah.
So real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way to go, Tom. Way to go. So you're very liberal in the sense that when you expose your children to nature, you're not oh, don't go in those bushes,
No,
or Because that also opens up an opportunity for them to be, one, adventurous, and two, creative with their surroundings.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it has to do with, again, when Ellie was born, I read so many studies. Everything was research based, and I had read something about like, don't say the word the phrase "be careful" to your child, because it teaches them that like mistakes aren't possible, and and I really I actually agree with that. But at the time, I was like really trying to break that habit. And so now it just comes a lot more naturally to me. Mm-hmm. But I really believe that, like, you let a kid run barefoot across a tree that fell down, across this creek, they're going to learn, like, to be confident. Like, the first couple times they're going to be nervous because they're not used to it. But they do, like, the sense of, like, just accomplishment that they have there, like, transfers over to everyday life.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
But weren't we talking about something in regards to being barefoot and allowing your feet to come in contact with nature and the ground and dirt at some point through one of our episodes?
Maybe with Jessica on Free Range Parenting?
I think so, because there's some element of it connecting with nature that's really healthy for the body. Mm-hmm. So it sort of kind of recenters you, because we always have sneakers on or flip flops or something, and being able to actually connect with nature on a sensory level is really good for the body. So. Mm-hmm.
I really agree with that. My mom pulled me aside at the East Haven Library, actually. And normally I always, like, when a mom pulls you aside, be like, can I talk to you? I roll my eyes. But this one was actually, like, a really nice, like, from a thoughtful place. And I kept telling Dexy to put her shoes on. And normally I don't follow rules. And I don't encourage my kids to. And these like, I mean, they have to be respectful of places. But, like, sorry, that's going to come off really wrong. But this woman was like, why are you telling her to put on her shoes? She obviously needs to take them off. And I thought she was just completely insane. Like, sorry, I don't like to use that word. But yeah, she was very eccentric to me. But then the more we talked and she explained herself, she's like, no, some people just need to feel grounded. And I remembered all the times I was a kid and just barefoot. And even in the summer now, I'm always barefoot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fine, just go barefoot. Like, who cares? It's the library. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
Yeah. And so now I just let her do it outside. And Dexy's behavior, like, you can see it. And I feel like now I'm the eccentric lady, but like, I can see the difference. Like, I can see it in her behavior. Like, Dexy is a child that needs to be barefoot in the woods.
I love it. That's amazing. The thing about being in public spaces and managing kids is just an ever evolve, like, learning experience for me, and trying to figure out where I want to be. Because I think before I might have thought, like, please get your kids under control, right? But now, especially because I have lots of kids, mine and other ones, I'm more like, you can run, you can't scream, right? Like, we're in City Hall, so run. It's our building. But don't scream. People are working. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And my mom was like, why are they running around? I was like, there's nobody in here. It's just us. Like, it's going to be okay. And
you
then
said
when
it right
they start,
the first time, it's our building.
Right. But again, like you said, we don't have to follow rules, but we have to be respectful.
Yeah.
So come and run on this side where the people, like, don't crawl under people's feet. And then I will say that I think sometimes you can see when people are upset, but you can also see when people sort of appreciate that they're kids, they're just kids and they're not doing anything to upset you. And if you redirect them, it's great. And there's a little bit, I feel like, because I was in City Hall recently, I feel like I saw just a little bit of, I don't know what it was in people's face when they were looking at these kids, like, running and laughing around, because we're all standing in line. We're all mad that we have to be there. Nobody wants to be in vital statistics at 2:00 on a Thursday. Like, why are we here? But to see them, sort of that, like, free joy that kids have that we don't get to, like, we can't walk around barefoot in the library. I guess we could.
We wouldn't even be able to run around City Hall without somebody chasing us down and either shooting us or beating us or arresting us.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's an innocence that comes with being a child and having creativity in your mind, right? Because they come up with the craziest concepts.
Right.
And then they just start pretending like, oh, I'm flying, and their hands are out, but they're really not flying. They're just, like, really running around. But it's that creativity that really awakens the opportunity for them to learn important skills that they're going to need when they get older.
Yeah, I hear myself often saying, no, okay, well, so you can do that. Just don't. You know what I mean? Like, trying to figure out why I'm saying no in the first place. And then if I really don't have a good answer, then maybe putting just, like, a small parameter, And even that is probably more than maybe you would
No, I just try to like scale back because I realize like how much as adults and as parents we arbitrarily say no, and when you question like why, like in the grand scheme of things, like why are we saying no, like, and so I don't know.
And we do that ourselves as adults, right? When somebody says no, you can't do that, and you're like, well, why?
Right.
Yeah.
We're teaching them. We're helping them. We're preparing them for those scenarios. And when your boss says, no, you can't do that, and you just look at them and say, but why? It makes sense. It's going to help us. It's going to increase our productivity. It's going to make everything so much better.
Right.
Why?
I feel like you're slipping into a real example in your mind.
3 or 4 examples. But anyway.
So, Bekah, how does this translate in your house? Because sometimes I feel like I can do one thing outside, but inside I'm just like, it's chaos.
It is chaos. My house is chaos. Things have changed a lot. My father recently moved in with us. And so he is from a different generation. And so I'm finding like having to justify my parenting a lot. Yeah. So it's definitely, I find myself slipping into like almost his style. And then I'll be like, no, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But overall, I think it works nicely. Like my kids definitely have rules. I don't mean to like they're ours, but like Ellie is a natural rule follower and she puts more rules on herself than like I have on her, more than the school has on her. And I try to get her to loosen up. Whereas Bexy, she'll look right at you and she doesn't care what the rules are. Like she just she doesn't care.
Just turns off and walks in the other direction.
And like I have these conversations with her. And I try to just explain why. Like, if I have a rule, it's usually for your safety. Like, that is usually, like, other than that, be creative. Don't draw on the walls unless you're going to wipe it up. Like, and, like, if you're going to use, like, washable markers, I don't care. But, and they don't do it. Like, when you let them have, like, less boundaries, they're not driving you crazy.
Interesting.
That's, at least for my kids, that's working.
Well, I mean, if you have less boundaries, then nothing's driving, like, there's nothing to rub up against in your mind. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that when you have less boundaries, you're not really harping on all the things that drive you crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you don't mind that they're writing on the walls, hey, listen, I've got a gallon of paint down there. Eventually I'll get to it. Knock your socks off, And
I mean, I don't have markers on my wall. I don't. But like, I feel like if I had that as a rule, Dexy is the type of child who would actively go out of her way to draw on the walls. So like we've never had to say, don't do it. Like one time she did put fingerprints, like the ink pad. She put fingerprints, covered the wall. So I just said, okay, that was creative. Now let's get the magic eraser and wipe it up.
Right.
Like it wasn't. Like,
did it work?
It did. It wiped right up. Yeah.
That's
what do you call the Mr. Clean
Mr.
eraser?
Clean,
Yeah. It's probably not like now I'm going to get like calls that like, you should have your kids cleaning walls. But like,
no,
that's a natural consequence, right?
Yeah. So I just like there are consequences. So like they're old enough now. Like she's gonna be 5. She's old enough for most things to know. Like, okay, I didn't specifically say no to this, but that was not a good choice, and now here's the consequences.
No, I love that. And where was I? I just had a.
I'm still crunching.
You're still crunching. No. Oh, the thing with the walls. I had never had a problem with the walls. I don't know if it didn't occur to them or if they just naturally knew, like, we don't draw on the walls. And then my friend was at my house telling me about how her kids drew on the wall. And then we had drawings on the walls. I was like, first of all, nobody was talking to you, right? Like, get out of here. You're just involved in too many grown-up conversations. Get out of here. But secondly, I just feel like my kids sometimes, like, they hear something and like, oh, that's a thing? Oh, let me go try that thing.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's just where kids go.
Kids are like sponges. They absorb conversations. They visually absorb what you're doing. And they know. Most importantly, they know what buttons they can push.
Yep.
Right? And they test those boundaries, and you see that as they grow older and older, they start doing things just to sort of kind of test to see how far they can get away with what they're doing before someone says no. Right? And on the flip side of that, they also test the boundaries to ensure that, if I'm doing something right, am I getting that praise for it too? Am I getting that acknowledgement? So they do that on the flip side. They're very smart.
They are.
They are very smart and very absorbent. And I think that, you have to give them an opportunity to develop that. But like you said, this is not that you don't have boundaries or that you don't have rules. It's just that they know that you are not that type of person that is going to stop them from doing everything.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And say, no, you can't do that. And you can't do it because I said so.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm the mom and that's why you can't do it. Like, for them, they know that they have, you're teaching them that there's consequences for their actions.
Exactly.
And you're giving them an opportunity to make the mistake so that you can teach them as to why that was wrong or why that was right. And this is why you're getting what you're getting.
Yeah. I try to remember, I don't always, but I try to remember to praise like positive reinforcement and not just always the negative reinforcement. It's really hard. It's a mind shift that you have to like constantly be working on.
And bringing it back to like being adventuresome and like being outdoors. Sorry, I moved away from the mic. I find it's a lot more easy. Like when you're outdoors, like when you're in the middle of the woods, they're not going to be breaking rules as much. Mm-hmm. So it's like a really good opportunity to switch that behavior for yourself, to like get into the habit of just praising them for the creativity, praising them for being like a risk taker. Because you're not really like, unless they're out like trying to like stab an animal in the woods, like they're not gonna get into
a whole nother
problem. Like they're not gonna get into much trouble.
Right.
At least they're not breaking something in your house. They're breaking a branch or a rock or so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I am still learning the whole nature play and learning the bit about no rules, right? Let's just go, because I don't know that I crave rules, but when I get out there, I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do? And then when we go to, say, Common Ground, we get stuck at Brick City, and then I go, but there's so many more woods to look at, don't you want? And they're like, no, we want to stay here. And then I feel like somehow we failed, and then I have to remember that if they're having fun, then we win. But like sometimes I go, well, let's go explore over there, and they're like, no. And then I find that in a split second, I could get into an argument with them about like, well, but we came here to go look at a new thing, right? Like, don't ruin it, which is what I'm doing, ruining it. So it's a very, I feel like it takes a little bit of work to be sort of breezy in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's worth it.
And I found like, to ease into it a little bit, I started out by doing like nature scavenger hunts or nature bingo. And that way I still accomplished what I wanted. Like they were, like I got to see what I wanted
doing
to
things.
See, but then like it also like got them moving. Because like we could, at Brantford Supply Ponds, that's my go-to for parents who aren't used to being in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain bingo?
Oh, sure. So I'll just go ahead. I try to make it actually specific to the place I'm going, but you can just get generic pictures of like clip art of a bumblebee or a flower or something yellow. And you can gear it to different ages. So you can say, find something yellow or find this specific flower. But then for my older daughter, I can actually say, find a birch tree, find, princess pine. And like, she's old enough to actually look like harder or like a certain type of mushroom or something. And then they have to, I print out different bingo cards and they have to do it as we walk, and it makes it so we actually have to finish the trail, because I'll try, not always succeed, but I'll try to scout the trail ahead of time. So I have a few trails where I have like all seasons pretty much. Like I have the Dinosaur State Park Trail, and I have Brantford Supply Ponds, and then Indian Wells, and I have pictures actually like from those places of the different seasons of like, and I know where on the trail roughly they are, so I can get them moving.
Oh, that's cool.
And that way I get my walk, I get my nature, but then like Dexy will kind of get bored sometimes if, sometimes she's into it, sometimes she's not. Ellie, I'll just say like, Ellie, come on, let's go.
Right.
But Dexy is very free spirited. And so it motivates her. So I'll give her a magnifying glass or like dollar store binoculars. And I'm like, come on, let's go. It's an adventure. Or we'll read, like we're going on a bear hunt or looking for moose, and we'll tie it into that book. And we'll make bingo related to that book. And so I'll make like bingo cards, and then they get like a little prize afterwards, like picking a flower.
What do you make the bingo cards out of?
I just print them off on regular paper and then laminate them.
Oh,
and
nice.
so they're dry erase. So you use a dry erase marker, they check it off, and then you can.
And if you go to the same place all the time, you can. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
awesome ideas.
I love it. So you said earlier that you were a speech pathologist.
Well, no.
Or you did.
I did.
Studied.
I
studied.
walked for stage. I did everything. They didn't accept my thesis, and I said, I hate this anyway. So what am I doing? So I wasted all that money, 3 years of the master's, did my 4,000 clinical hours, and said, I hate every minute of it.
It's terrible.
So, but yeah, I did my internship, so I have experience in it, but I am not a speech pathologist.
Okay. Okay, I stand corrected.
No, I just wanted
right. People are like, we know her. She's not a speech pathologist, whatever that word is. Okay, I just choked on the word. But we talked. I brought that up because Dexy has
I think she's gonna need a speech
pathologist after this. Let me drink some water. So, we talked earlier, not earlier tonight, but we talked before because Dexy was getting some support services for speech,
yes.
Right? And I wanted to ask you how that's been going and how you I think we've talked before about how you manage sort of this sort of adventure nature play thing as a way to help her. And so if you could tell us a little bit about what her speech challenge is and how you have been working with her on it.
Yeah, Dexy has a significant speech delay. Like, it's gotten a lot better, but she's still very delayed. Mm-hmm. And she's so tiny for her age, so a lot of people don't realize it's as bad as it is because she's the size of an average 3-year-old.
Okay.
So people are like, oh, she talks like a 3-year-old. And actually, she talks like a 1.5 to 2-year-old. Okay. You know, it's getting a little bit better. It's not that drastic anymore. But, you know, when she's talking like a 3-year-old at 5 years old, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And it's mostly articulation. So up until this point, it wasn't a language delay. So she understood everything, but she couldn't say everything. And that was really hard on her. Like, her confidence level, the kids were teasing her. We went to a local play group and we actually had to pull out because it was just a source of sadness. Like, there were kids her age that were just so, like, I want to say mean, but they don't know. Like, they've never been around a kid like that. And like, even after like talking with the parents, like, hey, could we like try to discuss it with them? It just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so some kids naturally pick up and become mothering to her, which Dexy liked for a while, but then she's like, I'm not a baby. And so it was really challenging. And then we tried the local public school and we pulled her out because she had an IEP and they weren't following it. And so this year she has not been seen one time and she has an IEP that is legally binding and they have not seen her once.
Can you explain what an IEP is?
An IEP is basically, it's a contract that says this is the services your child will get, and they are required to give it. And
from the school, they get everybody
from
involved.
The town,
it's a thing you get. I don't know if you get it at other schools, like non-public schools.
Well, she's in private school now, and the town is required to still do it.
Oh, that's great.
It's harder. But we've realized
IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan, something like that.
I should know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I don't have children, so I need to understand. You know, I don't often speak I am. So when I hear letters, I think it's
I see.
the I am language. So I need sort of kind of an explanation for what the acronym stands for.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a form that says these are the services your child needs. This is how many hours she'll get it. Right. And sadly, like with budget cuts, there's not enough people to go around. But we had to pull her out of the preschool. It wasn't like it wasn't going well. Like, one little girl would slap her upside the head and say, spit it out, because she wasn't talking fast enough.
Are you serious?
Dexy was having a very difficult time, and she was coming home crying. She was, Dexy's such a happy child, and to see this miserable little girl, it was heartbreaking. But we found a great school.
I'm sorry. If someone were to ever smack my child and say, spit it out, you would not find that.
I mean, this was a little girl, but
you would still not find her.
And on one hand, I want to feel bad for her because somebody is saying that and smacking her at home, right? Like, somebody's doing that. But listen, keep that shit at home. Get it away from my kid.
And so, like, I didn't want Dexy to learn to just, like, always, like, pack up and run when you don't like it. But it was, like, everywhere we were going, like, except for Tinkergarten, it was a group of kids that just, like, she would have a couple friends, but she would come home and be like, I have no friends. No one likes me. And so the few phrases she would say is, no one likes me.
Oh, my God.
And so, like, to hear your kid finally talk and to say that, like, I have no friends, it was heartbreaking.
And at 3?
At 3, yeah. It was heartbreaking. So, we started just spending a lot of times in the woods, just me and her and the dog. And she started, like, I post videos of her, like, there's a tree that fell down across this creek, and she practiced all summer to run across this tree by herself. Like, at first I would hold her hands across this creek, and then we had, like, kind of flooding. Like, it wasn't like a major flood, and she did it by herself with, like, a river.
Wow.
That's awesome, though.
And she was so proud of herself, and it was, like, the happiest I'd seen her. And so that's
had a friend who had a theory in where she had a child that had a speech impediment, and they were trying to work through it. She ended up getting a parrot. She got an African gray parrot, and parrots tend to repeat and do a lot of repeating, and the African gray parrot has the highest vocabulary capacity of most of the birds in nature. I believe it's over 225 words or more.
Wow.
So she started interacting with the bird, and that helped her a lot and starting to articulate, because the bird was trying to imitate her. She was trying to imitate the bird, and they were helping each other in really pronouncing and trying to get things going. Cool. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize a parrot can last you anywhere between 60, 70 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they last a long time.
I did not know that.
Macaws last that long?
I had a macaw.
But I don't know if this would be the right term for it, but like animal therapy, I don't know is there a term for that? Because people have, some schools have dogs that come in that kids read to the dog. And they think they're reading to the dog, but they're actually just practicing reading.
Yeah, the local library does that with bunnies too. Yeah.
Oh, with bunnies.
Yeah.
My friend's mom has a dog who's a therapy dog. So therapy dog is the saying, but I don't know if there's another term for it on the other side. But this idea of like having a pet or an animal or a stuffed animal, I know in some schools there's a stuffy for everyone, and when it's reading time, everybody is reading to their stuffy, like
that's great.
That kind of thing. Just getting kids to make it not about them, right, and put the focus on someone else that's not mom. Gets them more interested. Especially if it's a thing that can't talk back and make fun of them, I imagine is part of the strategy. And then with the therapy dogs, especially this particular one, I think her name is Maya. She's just so calm. You know, you just want to sit up and snuggle next to her. And so just that idea that some reinforcing, just that like loving energy that comes from a nice, cuddly, warm animal or other thing helps relieve the tension that the kid already feels, already knows, you know what I mean? So that they can focus on the thing they need to focus on.
Yeah, I think like we just rescued another dog, but I see like Dexy like just curls up with him, and she tries so hard to say his name. And of course we picked a name. His name is Cricket, and Dexy has the hardest time with K sounds. And I'm like, we picked like the worst name.
You're the worst.
We're the worst. Like, what
no, it's a challenge. You're like pushing her boundary.
And like she also talks to Alexa, like our.
Oh, I love Alexa.
And so she's getting more articulate with like certain things because Alexa can finally recognize it when she says Alexa.
Yeah,
it's not quite Alexa, but it's enough now
that she gets
it picks it up.
I mean, part of that is because she's AI and they learn, right? Yes. Which is crazy. But Emery's also going through that. He's just realized that he can, because he's been trying, and he is so excited with himself when the blue light comes on and you hear the little ding. He's just like,
I did it.
Turn it off. It's just, whatever.
Yeah.
So did y'all see the video of the little girl that was trying to
get Alexa to sing
the shark song?
Yes.
I thought that was the cutest thing.
It is.
That girl struggled.
Yes.
Oh, she was struggling. But she was not giving up, and she was so focused on making sure she got her song. And when it played, she celebrated.
Yeah. But again, this opportunity for them to practice in a real-time way. Like, if he doesn't say it properly, she doesn't respond, and he knows. And so he tries again. And sometimes he tries 3 or 4 times, and then he walks away. But other times he does, and then she does something, and then he looks at me. I was like, okay, well, what are you going to say? He's been calling her name.
Oh, I love it.
It's kind of like when they say, Mom, 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 Mom. I turn around and go, Emery, Emery, Emery. And he looks at me. I thought this is what we were doing.
Yeah, Dexy's trying to currently train Alexa to roll over. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, so I keep questioning whether there's more than just speech at this point. No, that's horrible. But,
that's great.
I'm like, do you understand that like she is not a robot? Like she's a robot, but she's not a robot. Like
I know, because I call her a robot too, but she doesn't move.
Not
like
yeah. So
I just can't wait for the day until I'm able to get my own personal Rosie from the Jetsons.
Oh,
we're getting there.
Like seriously, she would come in and be like, "I want a piece of steak," and her stomach just opens and out pops a plate.
Oh my God!
Like, gimme, just give me a knife, some steak sauce, and I'm ready to go. Like I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be able to walk to the wall and say, "I want potatoes with garlic and some pork chops," and you push a button and boom, out pops a plate. I want that.
I hear you.
I want to be able to float in my car in the air.
From Fifth Element, the thing is
totally.
like three little beans. Yeah.
I love that movie
chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about Dexy. Can you tell us a little bit about Elliot?
Oh yeah, but I want to clarify that now Dexy's in a very loving school. So like if anybody from her school's listening, like it's not you guys. Like it's the Quaker school and they're the nicest people. But anyways, so Elliot, let's see. We're struggling right now. This is the first time she's in 6th grade that she's ever been graded on anything. So it's
because she's at she was crunchy granola school, fancy crunchy granola.
Yeah, that was very child centered, and so they motivated them to learn because they wanted to learn, not because of a grade. Mm-hmm. And so now the transition initially was better than it is now because they knew that like everybody's new to this new school, and she goes to ESOMS, which is a very rigorous school. They have engineering 5 hours a week. They're doing Arabic. Like it's pretty intense. And so she that hasn't officially been diagnosed with dyslexia, but informally has. And they just keep like sweeping her under the rug now because up until now, she hasn't needed services because her old school just compensated for it.
Yeah.
And now this year, they're like, oh, well, until her grades slip. And so she's been getting straight A's, but the teacher told us at conferences that the only reason she's not failing is because they disregard her spelling. They disregard her math errors. They disregard them. And I'm like, no,
that's not how testing works.
Like you are literally like, you're admitting to me that like she's slipping through the cracks. And that's with me being an advocate. Like I can't imagine parents that like aren't an advocate for their kids. So it's a struggle, but overall she's like, we're very impressed because even with all these struggles, she's doing really well, except for the science grade. But it's because she's been doodling. And like, I look at her notes and rather than taking notes, she drew like a beautiful ocean scene. It's beautiful, but it's nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, she's in a play coming up at the end of the month in New Haven. So she's been keeping busy and
nice.
Yeah. So I'm impressed, but she's struggled. Like both my girls have their individual struggles.
And do they, I guess, react well to this nature play? Do you feel like it helps them? Do they feel like it helps them?
I think for Dexy, it's a necessity. Like absolutely, Dexy needs it. She's a kid. She needs to be outdoors. In her school now, it's 2 hours a day outdoors play. Like. And that even with that, we still go for our night walks. Ellie has always like it's all she's ever known. So for Ellie, I think she's never needed to be like grounded. You know, like her old school taught them mindfulness. Like so, she's always like she knows that. But I feel like for her, if anything, I feel like she's going to take after me and have anxiety. And so just being out there, you can just see her relax a little because again she's a rule follower. Like even when there are no rules, she'll make rules for herself and be like, well, you can't do this. So it's time to see her just unwind a little bit. And I can just I don't know, I'm like, just get your shoes dirty, you know. And she'll be like, well, there's mud, and like she doesn't mind like the mud itself, but she like doesn't want me to have to do laundry. And I'm like, well, let me worry about that, you know.
That's so funny. There was a kid in my program who when he started, he didn't like dirt, he didn't like grass, he didn't like snow, he didn't like any of the things. He finds the like little because he's 2 and his mom makes him. But he brings me the tiniest little things, like I can't even see them sometimes. But now he's in the snow, he's in the dirt, you know, like we have a mud kitchen, and I'm just like he came down the slide too fast and like fell on his butt and didn't want to put his hands in the grass to stand up. So he's like, I need help getting up. And I was like, what? No, you don't.
Oh, I love it.
So it's so funny to be able to see those things, and especially when you know what you're looking for. Because it's funny and it's hilarious, but pushing them past that helps, because I feel like sometimes it's limiting. Like in some cases it's great because you're like super organized, you know, or the assumption is that you'd be super organized, but you might miss out on some really cool opportunities because you're not opening yourself to to that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like,
even at a young age.
Yeah. Kids, especially like Ellie right now, she's so overscheduled and so like this like like kids everywhere are just like they're over standardized. Like everything is standardized. And so Ellie now is finally feeling it being at this school. And so I think it's going to be more important for her. Like she's been passing on like going for walks because she's like, no, I have homework to do. And lately I'm like, no, you've got to come. And I can see like she needs it now. Like, so before I said, no, Dexy needs it. But I think maybe like Ellie
needs it in a different way.
She doesn't take the risks that Dexy does, you know, and whether it's because Dexy doesn't know enough to be afraid yet, like of the consequences, and Ellie has more forethought. I'm not sure about that, but when Ellie finally ran across that tree that I said that like Dexy did, like at first, like she was like, "What is Dexy doing?" And she realized like there was finally something Dexy could do that Ellie couldn't do. And it was actually it was difficult. Like you had to jump like 2 feet to get to this tree over water, you know, like, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but
I mean, it sounds like a big deal.
It was like, I want to take you guys there now just so you can see, like, and it moves up and down when you jump on it. It was like a seesaw. Yeah. Like it was a big deal. So Ellie did it and like, you know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everybody in my house, like we just need to be outside and my husband doesn't care, but like I need it.
And so what would you recommend for parents? Like, how would you recommend people get, I think you said a little bit earlier about getting started on sort of nature, being out in nature and nature play with your kids. How would you recommend someone jump in if they haven't done it before?
I think like if you're in the New Haven area, the Branford Supply Ponds is the easiest place. It's nice wide trails. You can go with a jogging stroller, except for one small 10-foot area with roots. You know, just get out. It's easier said than done, but just don't worry so much. But if you do need some kind of structure, go to the dollar store, grab some magnifying glasses, grab some binoculars or bug catching kits, and just try to be out there for just 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But we have so many great places like the Eli Whitney Museum behind there. Those trails are great. You know.
So Eli Whitney, the Branford Supply Pond. Yes. What was the other thing you said?
Indian Well out in Shelton. So like you can go to the river itself or up to the waterfalls.
The waterfall. Yeah. We used to jump off of that waterfall.
Yeah, I jumped off of it and I chickened out like I wasn't going to. But then a whole bunch of bees came out and I'm severely allergic to bees and I didn't have my EpiPen, so I had to jump.
My God.
I had to and I was terrified and then I loved it. But yeah, but this was only like 4 years ago. Like I was not a child.
I've done it over several years because I'm still eating these damn cookies.
You are.
And which is why it sounds like I have 5 pounds of something in my mouth. But I've gone to Indian Wells for years. I mean, for as long as I can remember, even as a child.
I've never been there.
It's really nice. They have a big lake, right?
It's a river, yeah. But it's big, yeah. And they have lifeguards too. So it's one of the few places that you can sit in the beach, but also be in the shade.
Oh, interesting. So,
yeah,
that is cool.
Pine trees, and so you can bring some food to grill, and you can sit there and like you could watch your kids be in the water, but be in the shade.
That's amazing.
It's really good. I have a very beautiful picture of my paternal grandmother that I took at Indian Wells, and she's just sitting in a little stump by a tree, and she just looks so angelic. And it's upstairs somewhere, but that's one of the memories that I have from that state park. It's just amazing. It's really nice.
Yeah, I want to be in nature more than I currently want to.
So what if you go to a place like Chaffinch Island or like...
I don't know what that means. What are those words?
Okay. Start. Okay. My friend Karen actually told me about it. It's a place, it's by the water, it's marshland. So there's a trail. You're in nature, but you're not like in the woods.
What's it called?
Chaffinch Island. It's in Guilford.
Chaffinch Island. So the reason I say that is because I have a fear of like shit falling from above, like in a tree, like bugs or something. I've got a lot of hair. We're never going to find it. Like, it's just, and so I remember I did 2 sessions of Tinker Garden and then it was summertime and I was like, nope, I can't be out here. Mosquitoes, like silkworms. I remember Katie was like, oh, look, it's a silkworm. I was like, where? Falling on top of my head. That kind of thing freaks me out, and I don't want to give off that vibe to the kids. Yeah. So I wear a hat, you know. Yeah. I feel like that's my biggest fear. And then the extreme weather, right? Like the extreme hot, I get cranky. The extreme cold, I get cranky. Yeah. So if you're thinking about listeners who Want to, but don't really want to.
Yeah, I would recommend the coastline. Go to the coastline.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so Chaffinch Island. My friend Karen, I love her so much for recommending this place. I can't believe I didn't know about this place. That was one that like you can walk on the rocks. Well, if you want to. A lot of people probably don't want their kids walking on the rocks. So, like, you can. I let my kids.
It's a wonder they're still
alive.
Functioning.
Yeah, but there's also a trail out into the marshland, and you can walk all the way out. And
sounds cool.
Then like Lighthouse Park, it's off season right now, so go out there. And there's a playground on the beach, so that way, if your kids aren't even used to like being outdoors so much, there's still like at least some structure. Bring your bike. There's the path, or
or play in the sand.
Play in the sand. Yeah, we
West Haven Boardwalk.
Yeah,
it's a really good walk to start from the beginning, where I believe
there's a playground.
Jimmy's? No, not Jimmy's. What was that hot dog place that used to be there? They closed. Chick's.
Oh, my friend just told me about that just yesterday.
Yeah, and you can literally just walk the entire boardwalk. They have a lot of things that you can see. They've got a lot of plaques and stuff describing on how the place used to look like, because it used to be a theme park.
Oh,
many years ago, it used to be like Coney Island.
Oh, wow.
And so they have all these amazing old pictures of all the old structures and all the old roller coasters and stuff. It used to be the
so
coast.
Cool.
And so you can walk and go all the way up to Savin Rock, and then you can keep going and hug the beach and make it all the way almost down to Milford.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've only been on a very short, because when you're dragging like two kids, and I think Emery was smaller, maybe under a year old, and all the gear you have to come out with. So we like literally maybe went half a mile, and Lincoln wanted his tricycle. I mean, it was a whole thing.
Whole ordeal. Yeah.
It's a whole thing. Which it usually is, trying to pack up kids and get out of the house.
Have you been to the new pier in New Haven since they fixed it? They opened it up Memorial Day last year, I think.
What pier?
So Fort Hale Park next to the Coast Guard.
Oh,
so they redid that pier. If anybody's going with little ones, though, just hang on to them, because I don't think it's up to code. I'm not a civil engineer, but like I feel like Dexy could easily fall through.
Okay.
So there it is. So the pier is really nice. It's lit up. I think it's open until like 9:00 at night.
Wow.
And they have like the holders. Sorry, I'm gesturing. You guys can't see, but the holders for your fishing pole. And they have the cleaning station. So people, last year when they opened, somebody caught a baby shark.
Wow.
So like we were there, and like somebody pulled out a shark.
Right.
It was really cool. But now you know what you're swimming with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can go out there, and if you go past the pier, it says like stop, don't enter, but that's for cars, and like humans can walk there regardless of what people think.
Not for Bekah.
I promise.
It's for everyone except Bekah.
No, I promise you can go back there.
Okay.
And there's plaques that explain like the oyster flats and the birds, and there's an old like cannon like on the fort itself, and we turn that little like thing into our like dance party. So like we bring music with us if there's no fishermen, and we'll just like dance out there, and the girls call it their pirate ship.
Oh my god,
but there's like bunkers back there and some plaques if you want to make it educational for the older kids, to talk about the sound and the health of the sound and stuff.
So that's called Fort Hale?
It's Fort Hale. So it's actually, you can enter it from two sides. So either you can go see the new pier at Fort Hale and then walk over to your right along the fence of the Coast Guard. Like don't try to go into the Coast Guard, but like walk along it to the very end and you'll see it. And there is a boardwalk, but this time of year it's probably covered in sand and it's not swept off. Or you can enter on the other side of the Coast Guard. It's Black Rock Fort or something, and there's a parking lot there, but it's closed a lot of the times. And there's actually like hidden over in the corner of that parking lot is this what is it called, a totem pole, and it's like from
don't they have like a pagoda over there where you can like actually barbecue and stuff?
So cool.
So it's actually right off of Townsend Avenue.
Nice.
So if you get off of exit 51. No, excuse me. Exit 49.
I'm just going to go with Bekah. I'm just going to ask Bekah to take me.
Exit 50 going north and take a right on your first right. Woodward Ave will take you there.
Straight all the way to the end.
Okay. Yeah. So
that's one way in. And then if you go through Townsend Avenue, you can go around and go in through this nice little entrance with these stone like walls that come up to about yay high. And
right across from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
That's how you'll know.
So now I know when people come to visit, I've got some cool local places.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff around here.
And there's no woods, so you won't worry about I mean, there's seagulls above you.
Oh, Lord.
Or, I mean, if you're feeling adventurous, you can also visit the West Rock Nature Center. There is a nature center located right in West Rock. They've got hawks. They've got birds that they keep there. They keep deer. I believe they have a couple of like animals that you can feed. So that's also a really good experience.
That's cool. That's right in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I knew the one up in Hammonasset.
Well, Bekah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a pleasure. It's so good to see you and to hear that Dexy and Elliot are doing so well. You're doing an amazing job. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
I'm still crunching cookies.
Lord, how are we going to wrap up if you're crunching?
All right, I'm sorry. So, Candace, how are you?
You're a hot mess. So we're going to wrap up now with our hashtag Mom's a Hard tip of the week, which I kind of not really have one, but I did ask Bekah to share one because is she going to tell me no at the last minute that she doesn't have one when she said earlier that she did?
Like my, no, I don't, because I said one completely joking that I will never say on the air.
Okay.
I don't know. Hashtag.
Can I try one?
Yes. Ooh, okay.
So, hashtag Mom's So Hard tip of the week. We suggested earlier possibly using birds as a means to help your children with their speech. If you are going to get a bird, make sure that it's a baby. You need to be able to bond with the animal. You can't buy a grown parrot and expect it to, one, speak to you, two, understand you, and three, be friendly. So if you do decide that you want to get a parrot, I'm sure you had a macaw, so this is very important. You have to get them when they're very small. And you have to like literally hand feed them and get them used to you, because although they're beautiful animals, they can also be very dangerous.
That's a good point. So I guess the general thing there is if you're interested in getting an animal for support. I think in general pets are supportive, right?
I think so.
But to make sure that you look into all the details about.
Oh, absolutely. Even when you're getting like a cat or a dog, there's so many variables that you really have to think through. If you're a parent already and you already have a child, for example, that's going through some issues, getting an animal is like having a child.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't jump to that. Now, you don't want to add that kind of responsibility on top of.
Just imagine you having a child that you have to take care of, that you're really trying to develop. And on top of that, now you get a puppy that you have to be back and forth with to the vet.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Then they have to get it neutered or spayed. And you know how hard it is to keep a dog from licking themselves or trying to keep that damn stupid cone on and then having him or her not knock your shins off every time he like runs by you with that radar around his neck. It's really hard. So unless you're ready for that and prepared for that, I think that you really need to consider your options when it comes to animals.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would never put an animal in my house. But there are lots of places where you can go to see them and leave them there.
That's right.
And maybe check out your local library. Might have a therapy dog that comes to visit. Or in New Haven, we have that cat, the cat cafe.
Yeah.
What's it called?
New Haven.
New Haven.
On Whaley Ave.
Yes, where you can pay to go and sit and hang out and
they
pet
make really good
cats.
Chocolate ice cubes in your chocolate milk.
Hair included.
Wait, I'm sorry. It's for you to drink.
Yes.
Okay.
For you, not for the cat.
Got it.
Meow. But yeah.
Okay, so I think we can wrap up. Now. This is episode 48.
That's right.
We're getting so close to 52, which I'm super excited about. And we've got some really great interviews coming up in the next couple weeks. And you can find us in all the places. So I hope that you will look for us there and share, like, and subscribe. I think that's the order.
That's right.
No, it's like, subscribe, and share. That's the order.
Doesn't matter
as long as you do all three. I'm trying to get better about reminding myself to say those things because, I can't keep doing this if nobody listens. So I want you to listen because I really want to keep doing it. So do it for me. Thanks. And we'll see you next week. Bye. This show is produced by Tom Ortiz at Digital Stream Radio. It's available for download on Podbean. Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.